Tapu, namaste. This is Kasankma Keperu coming to you with another broadcast. And in this broadcast, I want to talk to you about how to use sign and symbol magic. But before I do that, I just want to address one of my viewers who responded to one of my videos. And he said that I guess I responded in a way where he thought I was being too sensitive or that I was upset. And I want to just say this. I said, I pride myself on being spiritually evolved and staying calm at all times. And if I was upset at you, I would have blocked you. I'm not upset. But all that I'm asking is that if you're going to state your position, do so from a place of providing the evidence and the documentation. I really love that. I love it when the viewers send to me links or information that backs up their point of view. And eventually you got around to doing that, which I was very happy at. But you had basically said something to the fact of, oh, I just started watching the video and I couldn't watch anymore. So that's being ignorant. If you couldn't watch anymore, then don't comment on the video. Then, you've got to watch the entire thing, then comment, then present the facts of your case. That's what intelligent people do. That's what scholars do. All right. But as I said, you eventually did get around to presenting your evidence, and that was great. Also, be aware of the fact that for all of you out there, I can't respond to everybody. I would love to, but it would just consume most of my day. All right, but I try to respond. Also know that I also write to authors of books. I read a lot of books, and I try to write to them when I want to get into a discourse with them, or do I find something that I think is incorrect, or I want to get more information on. I'm having a discourse with them, and have a discourse with you guys, but you guys take top priority. All right. So something that's kind of off subject that I want to talk about, which is really interesting because somebody had brought this up and asked my opinion of it. Right. And, those that are in the conspiracy theory or occult arena always tend to have these black and white answers, and I've always said this: if you understand Kemetic science or ancient Egyptian, I hate to call it religion, but let's just say a religion to facilitate this conversation, is that, they don't understand contextual thinking, meaning that in some situations a law applies, in other situations it doesn't. Case in point, when we talk about Ma'at is truth, but truth is contextual. In other words, Ma'at is the law, but the law means nothing without Tahuti, because Tahuti is wisdom. So Tahuti tells you when to apply Ma'at's law. So you can't have one without the other. And that's the problem with Western society. You have this list of laws, but there's no wisdom to apply the laws. And the way that you have wisdom to apply the laws is that you have people who have transcended the emotional state. If you have not transcended that to become a seer, then applying the laws is subject to human frailties or your whim. So you can have a judge who's emotional and apply the laws at incorrect times or out of vengeance or out of anger. And that's a lot what we see now, out of prejudice. So Tahuti is symbolized by the ibis bird, where he's standing in water with one leg for a long period of time, and the water is completely still. Symbol of your heart being still, or consciousness at a still point, consciousness being still to intuit knowledge. And we know that the way to get wisdom, high supreme wisdom, is to still the thought process and not have thoughts. Clear the mind of thoughts. And that is when the wisdom will come to you. It's the same way of saying to yourself, like, oh, wow, I had this problem. I was thinking about it for a long time. And then when I just forgot about it, woke up the next morning, then the answer came to me. That is the Tahuti aspect at work, is when you forget about it or you clear your mind, the answer comes to you. So the question that they were posing was that, somebody was saying, well, how things happen? Do these things happen for a reason? Like for the other day, I couldn't start my car, and finally I got it started, but I got to work a half hour late. Does that mean, in the grand scheme of things, I was supposed to get to work a half hour late, or the universe was protecting me from getting into a possible accident if I had left a half hour early? And so they wanted to know an answer to that. And, some people in the occult arena were saying, yes, that's what could have happened. Yes, that's exactly what could have happened. And no, that's not true. And I'll tell you why that's not true. I always talk about building a relationship with your spirit, right? What does that mean? That's just a metaphor that I use, okay? What I mean by that is when you're meditating on a constant basis, you're learning to tap into the subconscious mind, which is the spirit, right? Some people are more left brain than they are right brain. So if you're more left brain, you're more in the waking world. And you'll be better at more professions like accounting. You'll be better at being a lawyer. You know what I'm saying? You'll be better as a policeman or athlete, because those are left brain activities, okay? So a right brain activity would be a philosopher, would be, someone in natal care, like a teacher, or, someone taking care of children, things like that, because it taps into the right brain. So when I say building a relationship with the spirit, I mean allowing yourself to become more dominantly right brain, or tapping into the subconscious mind using your right brain. So also, right brain is the careers of an artist who has to be more creative, in other words, right? So when you are building that relationship, you become more right brain dominant, and it's easy for you to go into a meditative state, okay? So with that said, if you're meditating on a constant basis, you have definitely built a relationship with the right brain. You understand what I'm saying? So with that said, that means that you have allowed the right brain to become predominant in your life and to communicate with you, and you have that relationship going. With that said, things that happen in your life now are not accidents. That means that if your car is not starting, that means that you have built that communication with the spirit world to where it will do things in the physical world to protect and send you signs to help you, because you have built that relationship. So then if you are predominantly right brain, then I would say, yes, your car not starting is the spirit world giving you a message, or helping you, or protecting you in that way. So that's the answer to the question. But I can't say definitively unless I know that you are a spiritual person who has practiced meditative states, who has built a relationship with the spirit world, to where you have allowed them to come into your life now and to bless you and to intervene in your life. Otherwise, if you're Joe Schmo, who's just accountant and doesn't believe in the spirit world, then I don't think that that's a sign from them protecting you. Because you have not allowed them to come into your life and do those type of things. You get what I'm saying? So anyway, that was something I just wanted to touch upon, because we get into this very left brain thinking to where we're polarized into something's either black or white. It has to be a yes or no answer right away, when we don't look at the context of which these things are birthed from. You know what I mean? So we have to start thinking more on the lines of that. And this is why the school system is failing, because we don't know how to teach people how to think. We only know how to teach people how to regurgitate information. And that passes for intelligence. And it's not really intelligence. Intelligence is Tahuti. Intelligence is not Anubis, Sebek, because Sebek is merely information. Sebek only knows earthbound information. That means information that is stored in books, in libraries, on the internet. But Sebek cannot be innovative. He cannot break ground or new things. You know what I'm saying? He could pretend to be innovative. He could pretend to have wisdom and knowledge, and he does it rather cleverly. Which is today when we see the world, those people who we think are innovators, who are ahead of their time, who are on the cutting edge of technology, are people who are just mimicking others who have come before them, and I think, who was this? Steve Jobs or somebody has said that they didn't do anything revolutionary. They just took what already exists and just took it to a different level, improved upon it. But they didn't really create any type of revolution, because the technology already existed. So there was nothing new in what they did. They just were good marketers. And that's what's a lot of what Sebek is all about. He's good at communication. Sebek is a communicator, which the planet Mercury governs, you know? So keep that in mind. So let's talk about using signs and symbol magic, which is really interesting. Now, to understand how to use this powerful thing, which is already in use in our everyday lives, we have to understand what facilitates this. And that is trance state, or you know, what our ancient ancestors practiced. You know, going back, way back when I studied my priesthood, the first year we studied trance state. And I was surprised to find out that the reason why the ancient tribal communities got in a circle and played the drums and beat the drums were the beating of the drums, the repetitive of the drums, put you into an alternate state of consciousness. And I didn't know that. I thought the drums were just cool music, you know? But what it did was the repetitiveness of the beat of the drums got you into the alternate state of consciousness, and the incense, the smoke, and the vibrant colors of the traditional wear took you, and the colors corresponded to a certain spirit, took you to that alternate state of consciousness where you could communicate with that spirit. And again, I did not realize all of this. So trance state is very important to take you to that other dimension, okay? Now, when you're in that alternate state of consciousness, many of these ancient cultures would put on the ground these different symbols. And these symbols either represented different philosophies, but most times they represented spirits or deities. And these were archetypes that communicated to your subconscious mind. And these things communicated in many, many ways. They weren't just one thing. And that was the brilliance of the right brain, integrated brain cultures, because you weren't just saying, as in our culture and Western culture, one word. You were communicating many things, multi-layer things. So when you were in that trance state and you saw that symbol, you got a wealth of information on what to do, how to act, or it was summoning a spirit, and you will become possessed by that spirit to act accordingly. So, for example, if the community started doing wrong things, and they needed to get the community back in alignment with Ma'at, then they could put the Ma'at sigil. Sigil was the sign, the symbol for Ma'at. And when people would go into trance state and see the sigil for Ma'at, it would then awaken the Ma'at righteousness spirit within them, the righteousness spirit within them, and then the community would start to get in line and do right again. That's how it worked. It was no reading of Proverbs or Psalms from a Bible, which is just a Sebek verbal thing. It was communicating to the power that was in them to get them to do right, because we know that me telling you to do right, which is a left brain thing, does nothing to get you to do right. Remember those commercials? This is your brain. This is drugs on your brain. Don't do drugs. That's meaningless. It doesn't do anything, because a person who's addicted to drugs has a chemical dependency. And you're trying to fight a chemical dependency by telling them in an auditory, verbal way, which is not appealing to the dependency. You understand? So you need to fight fire with fire, okay? And that chemical dependency is coming from a right brain emotional origin. So telling them from a left brain perspective, I can do anything. The same thing in a Christian church. If you're telling people, if you're on a pulpit and you're telling people, you know, God loves you and you must do right, it's meaningless, because what has got them committed to doing wrong is an emotional thing. They may feel emotionally entitled to steal because they feel emotionally entitled to that money. So you have to appeal to them emotionally. And some of the Christian ministers who've come from African tradition, have tapped into this by getting onto the pulpit and dancing and playing the music and trying to strike an emotional chord within the congregation, which is they're on the right track. That's what we used to do in ancient cultures, was to dance, to play the music so that we can get into the heart of the issue, which is the right brain emotional centers, the mammalian brain. But the Western Christian church, which is devoid of that emotional appeal, which is all kind of like vanilla lecturing, doesn't understand that that's not going to work. It's not going to work. You have to appeal emotionally to the subconscious mind, which communicates from an emotional perspective. It communicates through emotions. Emotions is a language unto itself. All right. So, and in place of those emotions, what can evoke those emotions are the signs and symbols. And Madison Avenue advertisers know this, which is why if you go to New York Times Square, you will see, or you can go to London or Japan, and you'll see the lights and the everything and the advertisements, which are meant to appeal to you, your right brain emotionally. The sexy girl, the sexy guy, the car, the dress, the suit is all meant to emotionally arouse you. And then on another layer, which is the subliminal subversive layer, is the symbols that you don't know on a conscious layer what it is, but it's there, it's hidden, it's there, it's a sign, it's a sigil that it emotionally communicates to you. And most times it's a sexual symbol, because sexuality is oppressed in most societies, and because it's oppressed, it becomes part of our shadow self, the hidden self, and we're afraid to let it go, but we want to let it go. And sexuality taps into the chi or kundalini energy, and that energy, if it's aroused, can be channeled to the symbol or the sigil to make a manifestation of a reality. Let me say that again. If you can arouse that kundalini energy that's dormant within you, that's trapped within you, that chi energy or raw energy, and channel it into the symbol, the sigil, it will manifest the reality that sigil is created for. So if I create a sigil, for example, for you to buy more of this perfume or cologne, and I create the sigil for you to do that, and I implant this sigil in the navel or the breast of a half-naked girl on a poster in Times Square, 42nd Street, when you see the girl, you don't realize you're looking at the sigil, but it arouses you sexually, and you're looking at the girl and looking at the sigil, you're going to raise your kundalini energy, and you're going to manifest, some way, shape, or form for you to get the money to buy the perfume or the cologne. That's how it works. Now, many people have discovered this. They realize what's going on, especially the millennials and the gamers, because they realize that when playing games, they say that they would play games, and when the games would get really intense to where they were winning or there was a really cool shootout, that they noticed that they would start to go into a trance state. And when they went to this trance state, they would notice certain symbols in the game. And they were like, what are these symbols? They would consciously not be aware of what these symbols are, but they would definitely know. They would start to go in this trance state and see the symbols. And that's the game, the programmers putting them into a state of trance and programming them. Isn't that interesting? The same thing with movies. The movies do it all the time. Now, the way that you should be dealing with this is that you should be meditating yourself and creating your own sigils and creating your own symbols and signs. You should not allow societies to be doing this and programming you. Unfortunately, it's unavoidable because it's all around us. They're using occult magic for us to manifest things that they want. This is why we have a corrupt reality all around us that we cannot avoid. But we have to take charge. This is why those of us who are conscious of what's going on or higher level have to become magicians, have to become master magicians, because we have to take charge of our lives. We have to take charge of the reality. See, once you know this knowledge and you come into an awakening, you're now responsible for the reality that's before you. Because in actuality, you are creating this reality. Whether you're aware of it or not, you're responsible for it. You understand what I mean? You know the techniques. I've given you the techniques now of how this reality is created. You're now held accountable for it. Doesn't matter if you say, well, I don't like this reality, I don't want it. Doesn't matter. You know how it's created. Now create a new reality for yourself. I've given you the formula how it's created. You know that to change reality, you have to go into a trance state. You need a symbol or a sigil. You need to excite the Kundalini energy, the Chi energy, and then it will manifest before you. Now start doing it. And you can teach your children to do this. Your children can start at an early age and they will be more powerful than you, because children are more right brain at that early age, because children respond to visuals. Children are more right brained. You can teach them, and children go into trance fairly quickly. Unfortunately, in this society, they learn in left brain institutions, so they're taught to as they get older to become more left brain, and that's unfortunate, you know. So this atomic power that we have to meditate and change reality is ours. You know, when I was starting out, and this is before I got into priesthood, I knew this power. I was aware of this. So what I would do is I had a friend of mine, and we would go to different clubs, right? And he loved club hopping. But I tell you what I did. I went to a club, and I would look at the lights. I love the lights because part of my chart is Het-Heru, Hathor, Venus, the planet Venus. And Het-Heru loves lights and sounds and dancing, and she loves that, right? So, and I can't get away from that. I've got Het-Heru in my chart. So I would go to these clubs and I would look at the lights and I would hear the music, and I would especially pay attention to the beats, right? And then as the beat was going, and the lights, and I would dance, and I would purposely go into an alternate state of consciousness. And what would I do in an alternate state of consciousness? I would visualize myself finding investors for my film, finding investors for my film, finding investors for my film. And I would repeat that rhythmically, you know, as a rhythm over and over again, until I went to such a deep state of trance, and I created that reality. I shifted to a different timeline to where next couple of weeks, what happened? I started getting calls, started getting meetings. I would take my presentation board, because back then we didn't have like the iPad and all that. I would take my presentation board to these brokerage firms and start doing presentations. And I would start pitching to investors, and they would start investing until they were giving me checks, and some were giving me cash. And that's how it works. That's how it works. I knew the formula before I got into priesthood. So, you know, this whole bullshit of The Secret, and that is all that it is. It's a bullshit. And people are falling victim to that. It's about these producers who are greedy, because The Secret is all about just making money, and their secret doesn't work. They don't want to tell you that. It's just a bunch of crap. And I knew that from day one. I mean, when I said, well, let me see what this thing is about. I purchased the DVD at the time, which was like $40. And I watched that, and I just threw it in the garbage. Sorry, but it's garbage. And if you don't, law of attraction, it's bullshit. I mean, us magicians, those of us who follow the occult, who've been in the occult for over 20 years, we saw straight through that garbage. But anyway, once you know the secret of this, not the secret DVD, the secret of how your spirit works and how to manifest things, you can do this anywhere. I mean, there's times when I would commute to places on a commuter train, and I would sit there and close my eyes and go into the alternate state of consciousness and visualize a sigil, or I would visualize an image there and put myself into a state of trance. And of course, I would put on my what was back then, I would have a Walkman. Yeah, they call it a Walkman back then. And I would play the music and go into the state of trance and visualize what I wanted. Because you've got to have some type of music or rhythmic beat that will take you into the trance state. And there are different ways of doing this. And as you get advanced in this practice, and this is the wonderful thing that you can do, as you get advanced in this practice, you can travel to alternate worlds where you'll meet different beings. And in these alternate worlds, you can communicate with these beings and ask these beings to do you favors, to go on these missions, to grant you these wishes. But that's a very advanced level. And it's hard to do it starting out right away. So you've got to attempt it a number of times to get into that world. But once you do, it becomes easier to go back and go back and go back and meet these beings, and they will help you out. And it's a wonderful feeling and state when you get into this alternate world. So that's how you use these signs and symbols. Now, go online or go to the bookstore, and you can purchase a book or watch a YouTube video on creating a sigil. All right, and symbols. And signs, all throughout ancient history, there's many symbols that they've used, like the square, the circle. Each one has a specific meaning. Like 8 is a sign of infinity, and you will find these also in the Oracle of the Tarot. The Tarot is a very good source for interpreting symbols, and I recommend that you get yourself a tarot deck and go through it and try to interpret all the symbols that are in there. And another great source is the Bible, because the Bible is based on astrotheology, the study of the stars. And if you read the Bible, not as a history book, but read the Bible specifically to interpret the metaphors within the Bible. Because if you look at it from that perspective, as a book of analogies that are based on Kemetic science, you will gain a wealth of information. Like you'll see right away that when the Bible is making references to water, to fish, it's talking about Pisces, the sign Pisces. When it's making references to the calf or the bull, that's Taurus, and it talks about the stars and things of that nature. You can read into that, and gain a greater understanding. And then you'll see where it talks about the Holy Trinity and the Immaculate Conception. That's talking about Heru or Horus. And Mary is talking about Isis or Aset, so there's a lot to gain from that, and the whole idea of the story of Asar, Aset, or Mary and Jesus. The resurrection of Jesus is talking about the resurrection of Osiris or Asar, so get into that and understand the origin of that, because a lot of Christians don't read. They don't want to read because they don't want to really understand the truth, They're happy being ignorant, and that's part of their incarnation objective, is to come back into this lifetime and not understand the truth. That's part of what they're about. But let me just explain this to you, all right? The idea in this lifetime of what you want to gain is not money, all right? It's not happiness. That's not what you want to gain. And I know it's counterintuitive. It's like, Kassan, what are you saying? I don't want to gain happiness. I don't want to gain money. Well, isn't that what life is all about? No, it's about gaining power. Power. I learned that a long time ago. Like, I used to think, if I can just have a mate, I would be so happy. So I would get the mate and we would be happy, but I would get into a job where the boss would drive me crazy, right? So then I would say, well, if I can just get a business where I'd be happy, I wouldn't have a crazy boss. So I would get into a business and the business would drive me crazy. It would would be riddled with all kinds of problems. So what you want to do is to become a master magi, a master magician, to where you would gain power to create the reality of what you want in life, to create your reality. Because when you learn the power to manifest what you want, then you can manifest money, you can manifest happiness, you can manifest anything. But if you shortchange yourself and you go for just happiness and you go for just money, you're bringing with that problems. Now, what did the guy said who found the bottle with the genie? He found the genie, right? The bottle, he rubbed the bottle, the genie came out, and the genie says, I can grant you 3 wishes. And every time he asked the genie for a wish, there was a problem with that. Like, he asked the genie for $1 million, and the genie granted him $1 million, but then the IRS came and said, I have to audit you now, and took about 80% of that $1 million away, you know. And he asked the genie for a loving girlfriend or wife or whatever, and the genie manifested that. And the woman was a nag and told him to clean up, and he had to cook and everything. So whatever you wish for had a negative effect to it, you know. And what he should have wished for was the ability to grant himself unlimited wishes or unlimited power. And I don't want you making that same mistake. So what you want to go for is to obtain your God state. You want to be God man and God woman, to be powerful in this lifetime. Stop shortchanging yourself, all right? Because if you just think that you can just be happy 24/7, like some of these Christian ministers that come on TV and deceive you and saying, since I found Jesus, I've been so happy. The Lord has blessed me. Look how happy I am. Look at my beautiful wife. Look at our beautiful 25 cars and our beautiful jets and our beautiful 6 homes. We're so happy. Look how happy we are. You can be happy too. Just give to my congregation and we can be happy. And you can be happy too. You know, and it's just a facade. You know, it's all a facade because they have no real power. You know, they have no real power, man. The stock market crashes, all the happiness goes away. The congregation stops giving to them, all the happiness goes away. They have no power. They have no power whatsoever. So with that said, this is Kasakma Kaparu. If you've liked this broadcast, hit the like button. And subscribe to my channel. We need more subscribers. Share this video with friends and family. Help us get the word out. Help us start the revolution. Until my next broadcast, I'm in Ra.